Christine, how much does it hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion.
Picture this. One player sits out with an injury, and more than half the television audience for an entire professional sports league disappears overnight. Not just her team's games, the whole league. Every game, every market, gone. That is not a storyline someone invented for a drama series. That is what happened to the WNBA the moment Caitlin Clark went down. And the numbers are so staggering that even veteran sports journalists are struggling to find a comparison anywhere in the history of American professional sports. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on exactly what is happening inside the WNBA right now. The real ratings data, the ticket price collapse, the foul problem the league refuses to address, and what all of this means for every single player in the league heading into the most important offseason in years.
And the truth is the truth, and the data is there. And what we saw when Caitlin was out the last time, the 5 games that she missed earlier in the season, the WNBA's viewership dropped more than 50%. Not just the Fever, but the entire league.
If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this is exactly the kind of story we cover, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Let's get into it. When Caitlin Clark was sidelined with a groin injury, the immediate response from casual observers was, okay, viewership will dip a little, the Fever's numbers will take a hit, that makes sense. Nobody expected the floor to fall out from underneath the entire league simultaneously. But that is exactly what happened.
Clark went down. The WNBA ratings have dropped over 55% across the board.
Hey, guess what, guys?
League is Caitlin Clark.
The league is Caitlin Clark. She is the WNBA, guys.
Sidelined with a left quad strain May 24th, national TV viewership has plunged since then 55%. Before the injury, the Fever, her team, were averaging 1.81 million viewers, almost 2 million. Since her injury, fewer than 850,000.
Before the injury, nationally televised WNBA games were averaging approximately 1.81 million viewers. A genuinely impressive number for a league that, just a few years ago, was struggling to crack a few 100,000 on a good night. These were real, meaningful ratings that had sponsors excited and league executives talking about a new era for women's basketball. Then Clark went down. The league-wide average collapsed to just 847,000 viewers. That is a 55% drop, not for the Fever specifically, but for the entire WNBA across every game on national television. Indiana Fever games themselves dropped by 53%. And here is what makes that number even more remarkable. This was not some minor adjustment or statistical blip. This was the league reverting almost overnight to viewership levels from the era before Caitlin Clark existed in the professional game.
As big a deal as Tiger was in men's golf, Keith, he did, and when he was gone, it affected the ratings, but nothing like that. And, Michael Jordan being out, maybe a 5 percentage points or something. Nothing like this. You can make a strong case, and I will make that case, and have that there is no one single athlete more important to his or her sport or tour or whatever the circuit is that they play on than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA.
Christine Brennan, one of the most respected sports journalists in the country and someone who has covered women's sports for decades, put it plainly. She asked publicly whether any other single athlete in the history of American sports had ever had this kind of impact on an entire league's audience. She pointed to Tiger Woods in golf. Yes, golf ratings dropped when Tiger was absent, but nothing approaching this scale. Michael Jordan's absences from the NBA moved ratings maybe 5 percentage points. Nothing like a 55% free fall across an entire league. The data is not a narrative someone constructed. It's just the data. And it is brutal. If the TV numbers were alarming, the ticket market told an even more uncomfortable story. Before Clark's injury, The average resale ticket price for games she was expected to play had reached extraordinary levels for a women's sports league. Some individual tickets were selling for $860 or more. Road venues were being swapped out for larger arenas just to accommodate demand, something that almost never happens mid-season for any sports league, let alone the WNBA. Once she was ruled out, the same tickets dropped to around $250. That is a 71% decline.
Because of the way they play the game, because I love the WNBA. I love the way they play the game. But we really watch it because Caitlin Clark and everybody watching. Now listen, if I keep bumping her, knocking her down, might get her a concussion, you might hurt her for real. For 2 weeks, she was done with like a hamstring. She was down. 55% of the viewership was down. She comes back the next game, it's about 3 million viewers. Now let me tell you something. Growing up in the hood, they teach you this. Always protect the money. Y'all keep hurting her and all that. She's going for a year or two. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. If nobody watches, how y'all gonna make and generate money?
But the most revealing number involves games where Clark's absence was confirmed well in advance. The average resale price for those games dropped from $1,370, a number that reflects genuine, passionate fan demand, all the way down to $80. $80. The same game, the same teams, the same venue, just without one player. The Los Angeles Sparks rematch against the Fever was one of the most anticipated games on the schedule. With Clark, it had drawn 2.25 million viewers, one of the most watched WNBA games in history. Without her, ticket prices on the secondary market dropped from $210 to $95, and the electricity that had made that matchup a cultural moment simply evaporated. It became, in the eyes of casual fans, just another game. And those venues that had been upgraded to larger arenas to handle the Caitlin Clark crowd, they were now struggling to fill seats that would have been overflowing if she had been healthy.
Quad injury jumped to her groin likely because of compensation. But the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so be it.
The contrast was not subtle. It was embarrassing and completely avoidable, a pattern the league refuses to acknowledge. Here is what makes this even harder to swallow. This was not a surprise. Earlier in this very same season, Clark missed 5 games with a left quad strain. During those 5 games, league-wide viewership dropped by more than 50%. Not the Fever, not just her market. The entire WNBA took a massive hit across the board. The league saw that happen. The data was publicly available. Analysts discussed it. Journalists wrote about it. Fans talked about it on social media for weeks. And then it happened again. Medical staff and analysts have noted that the groin injury she is now dealing with is likely connected to the compensation patterns from that earlier quad strain. The body overcompensating to protect one area and placing excess load on another. That is a well-documented injury progression, and rushing a player back before they are fully healed dramatically increases the risk of a more serious, potentially long-term injury. The concern now is not just about a few missed weeks. If the Fever's medical staff and the league's broader infrastructure do not give Clark the time she genuinely needs to recover, even if that means missing the All-Star game, even if it means a prolonged absence, they're gambling with the health of the one athlete who is responsible for a quarter of the WNBA's entire economic activity.
I don't even know where to begin, man. I hope Caitlin Clark is okay. I want to know when this injury even happened, bro, because let's be serious here. She has the quad injury. Mind you, Caitlin Clark hadn't missed a game since she was like 19 years old, since she was like 18 in college or something. Now she has the groin injury. We've never seen Caitlin Clark play as bad as she played the last 3 games. Let's just be serious here. She's like 1 for 20-something on threes in the last 3. We've never seen her shoot the ball this way. I'll say that. Has she been hurt and playing through this?
Not her team's activity, the whole league's. That is not an exaggeration. The economic figure that has circulated among analysts puts Clark's contribution to total WNBA revenue generation at approximately 26.5%. One player, 1/4 of the league's entire financial ecosystem. And the pattern of pushing her back too quickly, of failing to adequately address the physical targeting that may be contributing to these injuries in the first place, keeps repeating itself like a loop nobody can break out of. Let's talk about the part of this story that frustrates people the most, because it goes beyond injuries and ratings and gets into something that feels fundamentally unfair. Caitlin Clark has been one of the most physically targeted players in the WNBA since she entered the league. That is not opinion. The foul data supports it.
Really concerning about this is the fact that we are only a month into the regular season and Caitlin Clark has already been out with 2 injuries, with the first one being her having to miss some time with a left quad strain. Now, of course, this is concerning because if you're already on your second injury, you don't want to be that player that is always hurt. Cough, cough, Embiid, cough, cough, Anthony Davis. So I really do hope that the Fever really sits her out right now for a while, only because you don't want her to have more long-term injuries and be more prone.
During this season alone, analysis of flagrant and excessive foul incidents pointed to the Phoenix Mercury as responsible for roughly 80% of the most egregious plays against Clark, with 5 of those incidents occurring in 2026 alone. The pattern is consistent and well documented. Hard fouls, late hits, physical contact that goes beyond competitive basketball and crosses into something more deliberate. And the league's response has been, almost uniformly, to describe these as basketball plays and decline to impose meaningful consequences. Clark finds herself in an impossible position when she responds to the physicality, whether verbally or with her own physical presence. She gets labeled as confrontational or difficult. When she absorbs the hits without reacting, the narrative becomes that she is too fragile, too sensitive, or somehow bringing it on herself. The league has constructed a no-win situation for its own most valuable player, veteran journalist Christine Brennan, whose upcoming book focuses specifically on Clark's impact on women's sports, has been one of the most direct voices on this issue. Her argument is simple. The WNBA is allowing opponents to use Clark as a target, and the league is doing it at the exact moment more people are watching women's basketball than ever before. New fans are tuning in, seeing a star player get hit repeatedly with minimal consequence, and drawing their own conclusions about whether this league is being run like a professional organization. The comparison that keeps surfacing is an obvious one. If players in the NBA were systematically targeting LeBron James or any other marquee star with late hits and flagrant fouls, the suspensions would happen fast. The message would be clear. The league would protect its product because professional leagues understand that their stars are the product. The WNBA, somehow, keeps missing that memo. Here is the dimension of this story that does not get nearly enough attention, and it affects every player in the league, not just Caitlin Clark. At the end of this season, the WNBA enters collective bargaining agreement negotiations. The CBA is the contract between the league and its players that determines salaries, benefits, working conditions, and the overall financial structure of professional women's basketball. For players who have spent years fighting for better pay and better treatment, this negotiation cycle is enormous. It could be the agreement that finally brings WNBA salaries to a level that reflects the athleticism, dedication, and skill these players bring every night. But here's the problem. The leverage players have in those negotiations is directly tied to the league's financial health and its viewership numbers. When the league walks into those talks, the data on the table tells a story. And right now, that story includes a 55% ratings collapse the moment their biggest draw gets injured, ticket prices cratering to $80 for games she misses, and a league-wide average viewership this season sitting at just 555,000 without Clark, significantly below even last year's average of 670,000. League executives, when trying to limit player salary increases, can simply point to that data and ask, how do we justify massive pay increases when the league financial performance is this dependent on one single player? What happens to our revenue model if she gets a serious long-term injury? The cruel irony here is that the very culture of physical targeting and inadequate protection that keeps putting Clark on the injury report is simultaneously damaging the negotiating position of every other player in the league. Players who may have complicated feelings about Clark's fame and attention are, whether they realize it or not, financially connected to her health and the league's ability to protect her. It is a collective action problem that the league has failed to solve, and the CBA deadline makes it urgent in a way that goes far beyond entertainment headlines. Beyond the TV numbers and the ticket markets, there's a third financial pressure building that the league tends not to discuss publicly. Corporate sponsors committed serious money to WNBA partnerships based on the Clark-driven growth trajectory. Double-digit viewership increases, sold-out arenas, genuine mainstream cultural momentum. These are the metrics that convinced brands to invest at levels the league had never seen before. Those investment decisions were made with an expectation of continued growth or, at minimum, sustained performance. What those sponsors are now watching is a league whose ratings literally halve when one player is unavailable. That is not a foundation that inspires confidence in a long-term brand partnership. Sponsors do not want to be associated with volatility. They want consistent, growing audiences. And right now, the WNBA's audience behaves less like a fan base and more like a Caitlin Clark subscription service, present when she plays, gone when she does not. There is also a fan behavior element that has emerged organically and is proving difficult for the league to counter. A significant portion of viewers who discovered the WNBA through Clark's rookie season have made a quiet, personal decision. They will not give the league their viewership for games Clark is not in. Not because they dislike other players, but because they feel the league's handling of Clark, the inadequate foul protection, the perceived double standards, the institutional responses that seem to minimize her impact, does not deserve their support. This is different from simply being a fan of one player. This is a principled audience decision, and it is reflected directly in the ratings data. When your own viewers tell you they are not watching because they do not trust the league to run a fair game, you have a credibility crisis that no marketing campaign can fix. It is worth stepping back and thinking about what a different version of this story could have looked like. Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA as a generational marketing gift. She arrived with a massive, loyal, and largely new to women's basketball fan base. She was humble, relentlessly complimentary of her teammates, handled extraordinary media attention with maturity well beyond her years, and consistently tried to use her platform to lift the entire league rather than position herself above it. The league had a specific, limited window to lock in those new fans, to convert casual Clark viewers into WNBA fans broadly, to build loyalty to teams and players across the league by ensuring that the experience of watching women's basketball was consistently positive, exciting, and fair. Other professional leagues have done exactly this. The NBA did not build its global brand on one player forever. It built on Jordan, then Kobe, then LeBron, converting fans of those stars into fans of basketball itself. Each era created new entry points, and the league infrastructure ensured the game was always the hero. The WNBA had that opportunity, and by most measurable standards, failed to execute it. Instead of establishing clear, enforced standards for player safety that would have protected Clark and demonstrated to new fans that the league was serious about fair play, the default response was to describe dangerous fouls as competitive basketball and move on. Instead of using Clark's popularity as a rising tide to lift every franchise, the league allowed a cultural environment to develop where that popularity became a point of internal tension. The result is a fan base that is still largely a Caitlin Clark fan base, not a WNBA fan base. And that is the league's failure, not hers. The WNBA is at a genuinely important crossroads right now, and the decisions made in the next several months will matter far beyond one injury or one season. The path forward is not complicated to describe, even if it requires real institutional will to execute. Enforce foul standards consistently and transparently, with consequences that make it clear that targeting any player, including the most famous one, will not be tolerated. Give Clark and other injured players the recovery time they actually need, not the minimum possible time before they can be put back in front of cameras. Build the league's identity around the quality of the basketball product, not around manufactured controversies that generate clicks but drive away serious fans. The league's average viewership without Clark this season, sitting at 555,000, is a data point that should keep every executive awake at night. That number represents a return to the pre-Clark baseline: empty seats, muted buzz, and a product that struggles to justify the investment being made in it. It is a preview of what the WNBA looks like if it squanders the window Clark's arrival opened. The boom and bust cycle the league is currently trapped in, massive when she plays, invisible when she does not, is not a sustainable business model. It is not good for the league. It is not good for the players. And it is not good for the long-term future of women's basketball. The question every analyst, fan, and sponsor is now asking is simple. Does the WNBA actually understand what is happening? And more importantly, do they have the organizational courage to change it? Based on everything we have seen so far, the answer is not encouraging. The same language about competitive balance. The same minimal responses to physical fouls. The same pattern repeating itself like the league is genuinely unable to learn from its own recent history. The 55% drop in ratings is not just a number. It is the clearest possible signal the marketplace can send. Caitlin Clark is not just the WNBA's best player. She is the difference between a league that people talk about and a league that barely exists in the mainstream conversation. And until the people running this league genuinely internalize that reality and make decisions that reflect it on player safety, on officiating standards, on how they project their brand and protect their stars, they will keep arriving at this same painful moment, staring at the same collapsing numbers, wondering why lightning won't strike twice. The answer is right there in the data. It always has been. If this kind of deep dive sports analysis is what you are here for, smash that like button and subscribe. We do this every week, and the stories we have coming up are going to be just as wild as this one. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think the WNBA will finally make the changes they need to, or are we going to be having this exact same conversation next season? Let me know. See you in the next one.